In the deepest, most uncharted jungles of the world, there are secrets that time itself has forgotten. Ancient civilizations rise and fall, leaving behind only whispers and ruins swallowed by the relentless green. But some ruins aren't just stone and dust. Some places hold on to their stories, their pain, their power. Today, we're venturing into the heart of one such legend, a forgotten temple so terrifying that even the local guides, men who have known the jungle their entire lives, refuse to speak its name aloud. They call it the Silent Sanctum, and they warn that if you're brave enough or foolish enough to step inside, you'll be surrounded by screams. The chilling part? They say those screams will be your own, but not a single sound will ever pass your lips again. For generations, the story has been passed down in hushed tones around village fires. It tells of a powerful, ancient priesthood who worshipped a deity of silence, a god that demanded absolute quiet as the ultimate form of devotion. They believed that sound was a corruption, a chaotic element in a perfect, silent universe. To appease their god, they constructed a temple, a masterpiece of engineering and dark mysticism, designed not just to block out the sounds of the jungle, but to consume sound itself. The legend claims the final ritual performed within its walls went horribly wrong, trapping the priest's own anguished cries within the temple's stone, where they echo for eternity, unheard by the outside world. Finding the temple was the first challenge. There are no maps, no marked trails. Our journey began by piecing together fragments of folklore and consulting with village elders who, after much persuasion, pointed us toward a forbidden valley shadowed by a ring of mist-shrouded peaks. For 3 days, we trekked through near impenetrable foliage, the air thick and heavy, the cacophony of the jungle, the calls of unseen birds, the buzz of insects, the rustle of leaves, growing strangely muted the deeper we went. It was a subtle shift at first, as if someone were slowly turning down the volume of the world. By the 4th day, the silence was palpable, unnatural. Even the crunch of our own footsteps seemed to be swallowed by the mossy ground beneath us. And then we saw it. Parting a curtain of thick vines, we laid eyes on the structure. It didn't tower over the canopy. Instead, it seemed to squat low to the ground, almost fused with the earth. The stone was a dark, porous basalt, covered in strange, spiraling carvings that seemed to draw you in. There was no grand entrance, only a narrow, uninviting opening, a dark maw that promised nothing but oblivion. The air at the entrance was cold, stagnant, and held a peculiar pressure, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. It felt like the entire jungle was holding its breath. The silence was no longer just an absence of noise. It felt like a physical presence, a weight pressing down on us. Stepping across the threshold was like plunging into deep water. The pressure in our ears intensified instantly. All sound from the outside world vanished completely. I turned to say something to my partner, and the words formed in my mind, but my mouth wouldn't make a sound. It was the most unnerving sensation I've ever experienced, the feeling of shouting in a vacuum. Panic began to set in. We were trapped in a world without voice. The interior was a labyrinth of narrow corridors all carved from the same dark, sound-dampening stone. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something metallic and ancient. As we navigated deeper, a faint noise began to manifest. It wasn't something we heard with our ears, but something we felt in our bones. A low, resonant vibration that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. It grew in intensity, a humming that made our teeth ache and our vision swim. And then, woven into this vibration, we began to perceive them, the screams. They weren't auditory. They were psychic impressions, raw emotions of terror, agony, and despair flooding our minds. It was a chorus of silent shrieks, a cacophony of pure, unadulterated fear. You could feel the desperation of those trapped souls, trying to cry out, to warn, to escape, but their voices were stolen by the very stone that imprisoned them. We saw strange symbols etched into the walls, different from the spirals outside. These were jagged, chaotic lines, like depictions of sound waves being violently shattered. In the central chamber, we found a large, circular altar. The psychic screaming was at its peak here, a maelstrom of mental noise that was almost unbearable. It felt as if thousands of voices were shouting directly into our consciousness. We realized the legend was true. This temple wasn't just built to be quiet, it was a trap. It was designed to capture sound, to capture the very essence of a person's voice and lock it away. The priests hadn't just silenced themselves, they had become eternal, silent prisoners within their own creation. The urge to scream ourselves, to add our own terror to the psychic choir, was overwhelming. It took every ounce of willpower to resist, to remember that giving in meant losing our voices forever. We felt the temple trying to pull a sound from us, a hungry, waiting entity eager for a new voice to add to its collection. The pressure was immense, a physical and mental assault. We knew we had to get out. Fumbling for our equipment, hands shaking, we didn't bother filming anymore. Survival was the only priority. We retraced our steps, our hearts pounding a frantic, silent rhythm against our ribs. The journey back through the corridors was a blur of terror. The silent screams followed us, clawing at our minds, begging us to stay, to join them. It felt like they were trying to pull us back into the central chamber. Every step away from the altar felt like fighting against a powerful current. The pressure in our heads was excruciating. We stumbled, we fell, but we kept moving, driven by the primal need to escape that soul-crushing silence. The promise of the outside world, of sound, of our own voices, was the only thing that kept us going. Bursting back out into the jungle was a rebirth. The moment we crossed the threshold, sound rushed back in with the force of a tidal wave. The chirping of a single insect sounded like a symphony. We gasped, taking in huge lungfuls of humid air, and then we shouted. We yelled until our throats were raw, not out of fear, but out of pure, unadulterated relief. The sound of our own voices was the sweetest music we had ever heard. We had escaped the silent sanctum. We had faced the chilling legend and returned, our voices intact. But we were changed. The memory of that psychic screaming, the feeling of absolute voicelessness, is something that will haunt us forever. Some places are forgotten for a reason. They guard secrets too terrible for the world to know, and they wait patiently in the shadows for the next curious soul to stumble into their eternal silence. Thank you so much for joining us on this terrifying expedition. If you find these forgotten legends as fascinating as we do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures into the unknown. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.